John, we're at the Hall of Fame today, and we don't often get an opportunity to talk, but when we do, we want to take that time and really investigate what's hot right now. And the worldwide concern for our sport has really been phenomenal. And I think, your family has been as much part of this sport over the years as any. Talk to us a bit about that feeling on February 12th. Was it a sinking feeling when you heard that news?
I think that's a good way of putting it. It was, yeah, it was devastating. I heard about it down in the weight room that morning. One of my student athletes came up and said, "Hey, I'm reading on the internet that they dropped the sport of wrestling from the Olympics." So, I immediately went to the internet and yeah, it was true. It was a tough time. Tough 15 minutes, and then, I think the thing that really kind of bounced me back was I after reading a little bit more into it, realizing that we had an opportunity to turn it around. And that's all I needed, because I knew and I could visualize immediately, that knowing wrestling people and their passion, nobody's laying down on this. And immediately it was a fighting attitude.
In the end, did it really surprise you? I mean, that it came up with. I sit back and look at my position. I wasn't surprised. I guess I wondered why it had taken us so long to get to that position.
The position of what? Of us?
Being pushed to having to make positive decisions for the sport.
Well, yeah, I understand where you're going with that, but I look at it a little bit differently. You have 9 million plus wrestlers, and maybe your organization that's running that's not doing a great job, or what people have said. I look at it as that do you punish 9 million wrestlers for that, rather than maybe making us aware, they're making people aware in the sport that, hey, you have an issue here that you guys need to clean up immediately. And so I got to be careful about the words I choose, but in the end, on February the 12th, I made a comment, and I think it could be the greatest thing for our sport, and everything I'm seeing, it's been a big positive as we've moved forward. The CPAL committee that I'm a part of, I'm very proud to see our leaders and what they've done, and how they've led us to this point of being put forward in September. There's been a lot of work on their part that's been done, and much more work than I've been able to put in. And I'm just glad we have those people, because a lot of our guys that really want to be a part of this, we also have full-time jobs of taking care of our student athletes in college.
And that must be a very hard thing to do, is to juggle that time. I do appreciate that for sure. But I want to get into the rules and some of the changes. Have we made enough changes to the rules? I surely like going back and seeing some things that, for example, some of these rules go back to 1996. I really like 2 3-minute periods. I like the accumulated score. It rewards people for a great offense.
Yeah, and I don't think we're done. I think that, their FILA put the rules out there, just some of the basic things, like you said, 2 3-minute periods, 30-second break in between periods, move the takedown to 2 points, so the push out didn't equal to a takedown, which I always believed. But I think as we go forward from here with these rules, and the competitions, of course, we had the cadets, FILAs last week with the universities. And, of course, we got to see dual meets both in New York and L.A. that Mike Novogratz and Andy Barth put on fantastic shows. And there's been a tournament over in Russia. So as we get into more tournaments, I think you're going to see new things that they're going to implement or take away. I think that everybody's on the same page that we want to put out a great product and a lot of action. So you're going to see some changes as we go along. But I think that from the things that came out of FILA from the very beginning, they're going to stick with the 2-3 minute periods, the cumulative scoring, those type of things that we want to see. Get back to wrestling, get back to it being a conditioning sport, get back to the grit of the sport, and the past 8 years under the rules that we've wrestled in, there hadn't been a lot of grit to it, and I think that we're getting back to that right now.
Well, the past 8 years, is it fair to say they were frustrating for you and other coaches? I mean, not only are you coaches, but you guys competed in this. So, what were the last 8 years like for you?
Well, I think it's a struggle because the transition from college to collegiate wrestling to freestyle became a much more tougher, and that was evident by probably our performances over the last 8 years. A real struggle, when you think about um, wrestling in the United States and the coaches that we have. We have 3 full-time freestyle wrestling coaches. Of course, Zeke Jones and Bill Zadok, along with Brandon Slay. I'm a part-time freestyle coach. So 9 months, 10 months out of my year is focused on developing our collegiate skills. And that makes it a challenge. One of the benefits I had of coming out of college right into freestyle was that grit was important. 1 5-minute period I wrestled. Of course, I wrestled 2 3-minute periods. Conditioning was an issue. Cumulative scoring we had. So it was a little bit easier transition where we got out. Now the last 8 years has been a lot of offense, defense. Score a point. Do you take a risk? Develop your defensive skill. But I will say through the last 8 years, the world has developed some great skills in defense because it was so required after you scored. If you wasn't going on the offense in the last 30 seconds, you better have great defense. So it did develop some skills that helped me learn some new things, and that's one thing that I will say about freestyle wrestling. And of course, that's what I do, and I'm sure Greco will say the same, is that freestyle wrestling I truly believe has helped evolve our collegiate wrestling as well. I mean, a lot of the skills that we've developed through the years has come from some of the best wrestlers in the world. And some of those have been right here in the United States. But there's been a lot of them out of the United States. So I think we're getting back, these type of rules will continue to promote wrestling and continue to raise the skill level up. In the last 8 years, outside of a little bit of defense, that was it. There wasn't a lot of innovative skill that was brought forward.
I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple, in particular, a couple of cowboy wrestlers that are out there now making names for themselves internationally. One of them being Coleman Scott, who is just an absolute joy to watch compete. I don't think anybody competes with more heart than he does, and man, he works hard to get there. And then, of course, there's the young Jordan Oliver, who is I think there's a whole lot of future on that kid.
Well, we'll start with Coleman. He's coming off his Olympic bronze, and I think there's always a great challenge after you fulfill part of your dream. And, of course, he wanted to be a gold medalist, but part of it was walking away with something. Once that was no longer available, I was proud of the fact he did come back and finish third and going through 2 great wrestlers. He's right there again. We got some great wrestlers at 60 kilo. I'll just say that Coleman will be ready in the middle of June, and he's all in. I can tell you that. Jordan Oliver still, still in a developmental stage, but yet is close to the top. Again, both of those guys have great wrestlers in front of them. Need to respect that. Need to understand what it's going to take to get your hand raised, and the closer they stay to that model, the more likely they're going to have success. And for us, we overlook Obi Blanc, the only guy that we do have at the top right now, and we'll be waiting for the winner that comes out of the trials to go 2 out of 3. So I've been real proud of him. His journey's been quite different than most. He's been on a world team before and then fell short the last couple of years. But yet he finds himself back on top, and for now, and for him to remain there, he's got to have a great 2, possibly 3 matches.
It's guys like that. It's like Obi Blanc that really do prove positive that this is an amazing sport with some amazing people, yeah?
Absolutely. You think about a few of our guys out there that, all over the country. Some of their best wrestling has taken place later in their career. On that journey, you never know where it's going to take you and when you're going to hit your peak performance. And guys like Obi Blanc and a guy like Jamil Kelly, that never placed in the NCAA championship yet in the Olympics, in the semifinals, beat the best wrestler at the time in the world at the weight, and went on to the finals and ended up with a silver medal. You just never know, if you stay with that journey and you have great passion, you never know when it's your time.
Here in just a couple of weeks, mid-June, we all return to Stillwater, Oklahoma, Gallagher-Iba Arena, the home of the Cowboys, and all of those beautiful orange chairs. The competition will be focused, of course, the attention of the world will be focused on the competition on those mats. Talk to us a little bit about hosting the World Team Trials.
Well, I got a great group here. I got the Hall of Fame with my brother Leroy, and of course Dave Martin in the athletic department. Very committed to putting on a great event. I think it's a time that for wrestling people to recognize maybe you haven't come to an event in freestyle and Greco, but you follow it and you're a fan. The eyes of the world will be on that event. I think it's critical that we put on a great show and our wrestling people show up and attend. It's important, and I can tell you that we are committed to putting on a great event for the athletes. Both men and women freestyle, and of course the Greco-Roman, and then on the final day, the third day, the junior FILA trials will give us our junior world team. So a lot of good wrestling. A lot of college wrestlers will be here in the junior level. A few of them may be in the senior, but get a chance to watch some of our best wrestlers again in the world all together.
So over the last couple of years, it seems like you've been carrying the weight of the wrestling world on your shoulders. It seems like you're walking a little bit more, maybe a little more spring in your step these days. And since this positive news came out of St. Petersburg, is there more positive news waiting for us from Argentina in September?
Well, first I'll go back to what you said. I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of us that have passion about wrestling feel like they're carrying some weight, and there's been a large number of people that's carried the weight of the decision back in February, and my weight's been a little bit lighter than some of the other CPAL members. I can promise you that. Bill and Jim Shear's done a fantastic job. I know Rich Bender. I mean, I usually talk to him once a month, or twice a month. I hadn't even been able to reach him because I know how busy he's been, and so a lot of people put us in this position as we go forward, and not just people in the United States, but all over the world. I mean, we got to recognize that there's a lot of people that have the same passion we have in the world, and we're in a good position. We can't. It's like winning the semifinal match anywhere. It's exciting. You're in the finals. You're pumped up, but then you need to refocus and double your efforts to win the gold, and that's what needs to take place. I think the celebration, of course, we're in day 2 of the announcement. I say we enjoy it one more day, and let's refocus on winning the gold and doing our very best, having our best performance in September.
Nobody's refocused on winning gold more than this guy right here, John. Thank you so much. John Smith, everybody.